Hello, I'm Presley, and today I will be reviewing episode 11 of the Bleach TYBW Blood War arc anime. Now, this episode covers chapters 528 to 533, well, most of 533. So in total, about 5.5 chapters to almost 6 chapters in total. We open up on Oetsu explaining to Renji, the reasons why he knew from the start that this type of training was not going to work for Ichigo. At least not until Ichigo learns who he is. Then the opening theme plays. Then, of course, we see Ichigo standing in front of the Kurosaki family clinic, but instead of going inside to talk to his father, he runs over to Ikumi's place. And, after a bit of talking between the two, Ikumi, reassures Ichigo that he can always come to her whenever he needs help, and, to think of her, like an older sister to him. Then, of course, there's a knock at her door. She goes over to answer it. There's nobody there, or at least nobody she can see. Because then we immediately cut back over to Ichigo, and we see Ishin standing in the room now. Fully in his Soul Reaper attire. Ichigo informs Ikumi that he's going to head back home, and he leaves with Ishin and heads back home. And once they're there, Ishin begins explaining to Ichigo about what exactly he is, telling him that he's not a Soul Reaper, but he's not just an ordinary human either. Stating that his mother was a... And then we cut away to a scene that we'll see again later in the episode as well, of Misaki introducing herself to Ishin, back when he was a Soul Reaper. Where she introduces herself as a Quincy. Now that we've done that, we turn back, the events a bit, to before that scene. And we see a slightly younger Rangiku looking around for someone. She walks up to a tree, and she kicks it, to which we then see Ishin fall out of the tree, and of course we hear Rangiku refer to him as Captain Shiba, because, his name is Ishin Shiba, and he was formerly the captain of the 10th Division. We then see them head back to the 10th Division's main office, where we see a even younger Toshiro Hitsugaya, who at the time was the 3rd seat. And after a bit of back and forth between the three of them, we have Toshiro asking Ishin if he remembers the report regarding the Soul Reaper that died about 2 months ago in the human world. To which Ishin replies, yeah, I remember hearing about it. And, Toshiro informs him about how they just recently got another report about 2 other Soul Reapers that died of unknown causes in the human world. And of course, upon hearing this, Ishin rushes out of there. He's immediately going to investigate. Then we cut over to a room filled with monitors, and we see Sosuke Aizen enter, where we see him ask if there's been any progress. And of course, then we see both Kaname and Gin, and of course, Gin replies that, nope, hasn't been any progress. And I'm just going to state really quickly that I'm so overjoyed to see Gin be animated in the 1000-Year Blood War. It makes me so happy, even though it's not really a big scene for him. I'm just happy that he gets to reappear. Mainly because Gin Ichimaru is my all-time favorite Bleach character, so I was just really looking forward to seeing him reappear in some form. And it's great. Even if he only got one line in this arc, it's great. Then we cut over to the human world, where we see 2 Soul Reapers, patrolling the area. And then, of course, Ishin pops out of nowhere, talking to them. We then cut over to Ryukin's home. We see Ryukin's mother and a young Misaki sitting down eating dinner. Then, of course, Ryukin's mother asks Misaki how her Seirin training is going. To which Misaki, of course, replies that it's going pretty good. Of course, Ryukin's mother gets irritated at this, starts to raise her voice at Misaki. Then, of course, Ryukin steps in, telling her to calm down. His mother, she leaves the room. And then Ryukin apologizes for his mother's behavior, To which Misaki replies, don't worry about it, it's fine, before she heads to a room. And, we see Ryukin and Katagiri standing in the dining room together. where, we have Ryukin stating that Masaki is aware that the only reason why his mother brought her there is because of the fact that she's a full-blood Quincy, and, to marry Ryukin. And of course, Ryukin wonders if Masaki would even be happy marrying him. To which Katagiri replies that she thinks it's very kind of Ryukin to be so concerned with Masaki's happiness. We swap back over to Ishin, and we see him release a bit of his spiritual pressure, now that it started to rain, to see if he can draw out whatever's attacking these Soul Reapers. Of course, we then see those two other Soul Reapers who are standing near the bottom of the building that Ishin is standing atop of. And, we see them be killed, and then we see it appear behind Ishin. The hollow that's been doing this. I'm not going to go into details about the fight because I'm not good at explaining fights. We see them go back and forth for a bit. Then, of course, we see Ishin unleash his Shikai. However, he's then slashed from behind. And, Ishin, he's aware that someone's there, but he's not quite sure who. And, of course, we can see that it's Aizen, Kaname, Gin, all wearing the, cloaks that Kisuke wore in the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. That masks one's spiritual pressure and allows the user to become almost invisible. Now, of course, while this was all happening, we did cut back over to Masaki, with her rushing out. She has to get out there. She has to try and save whoever it is that is fighting out there. We see Masaki finally arrive there. We see it lunge towards her. We see her lower her defenses and allow it to actually sink its teeth into her shoulder. Then, of course, we see her use her bow and arrow to shoot its head from the side, now that it's at close range. It kills it, but it does attempt to self-destruct, so Ishin rushes over there, pulls it away from her, attempts to use his own body to, kind of contain and to lessen the blast of the explosion. We see Masaki rush over to Ishin, who is collapsed on the ground, and, she says that, she's going to heal him. And, he asks who she is. And after a bit, she introduces herself as Masaki Kurosaki, and, reveals the fact that she is, in fact, a Quincy. We see Ryukin and Katagiri off in the distance, having just now arrived. We then cut back to Kaname, now back in the Soul Society, in the room with all the monitors, being clearly upset with this turn of events. To which Aizen then enters and states that it's not necessarily all bad, and that he thinks that this is an interesting turn of events, and he's very interested to see what happens. Then, of course, the ending theme plays, and this time around we do have another after-credit scene, which shows Uryu standing in the rain. And then we see none other than Ugram Hashwolf approach him. And of course the episode ends there, so let's move into my overall thoughts on the episode. I thought it was very good. This episode does in fact have another ending poem, and interestingly enough, it once again adapts the poem from volume 60. The reason that is because they split the poem in half, to where the first line of the poem is said by Masaki in last week's episode, and the second half of the poem is this time around from Ishin's perspective, which I think is a very nice detail, and I love it. Well, I'm going to end this review here. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.